Honourable Education Ministers, Secretaries, Government officials, development partners, friends, former colleagues. It is a real pleasure to be back in Pakistan after several years away and to welcome you all to this Decade of Learning conference. As Freya said, it's brilliant to see such a mix here in the audience, experts, government representatives, parliamentarians, former parliamentarians, researchers and development partners. And we look forward to reflecting with you on the past 10 years of education reforms, something which we don't often gather together to do. What's worked, what hasn't worked, if that's as important, or what we collectively must do more of or better or differently going forward. The UK is and has been a leading global advocate for girls' education, along with many of you, of course, because the challenge we face globally and here in Pakistan is so huge, but as we know, the potential wins are so great, from the individual girl to the family, community, and for the decades to come for their lives. We know the benefits of quality education for girls when they're in school and learning. They're wide-ranging enough to stop poverty in its tracks between generations. And we know that educating and empowering women leads to smaller, healthier, and better educated families and communities. And yet globally, right now, there are roughly 244 million children still out of school, more than half of whom are girls. And in Pakistan, the scale of that challenge is particularly daunting, with at least 12.2 million girls out of school, even if we've got the data to be absolutely confident of that, and that's more than 9% of the world's total out-of-school girls. And with the rapid population growth in Pakistan, these figures are growing at a rate that creates real strain on the system, which is why this event is so important. Our hearts are all in this. And tomorrow, on International Women's Day, the UK's Foreign Secretary will be launching a new global strategy for women and girls, reiterating our commitment around what we call 3 E's. The first one, educating girls. The second one, empowering women and girls. And the third, ending violence against women and girls. Not specific to Pakistan, but global. And our work here in Pakistan reflects these values and underscores the UK's unwavering commitment to ensuring that all girls have access to 12 years of quality education. And I'm pleased to say, thanks to so many in this room, there's been significant progress in Pakistan over the last 10 years. Pakistan has benefited from the UK's largest ever bilateral education portfolio, which I had the privilege of overseeing for 4 years between 2013 and 2017, and this has totaled more than £900 million over that period. From 2012 to 2022, we had 8 bilateral programmes, and this isn't just about the UK, but it's about the things we were trying to tackle, so access, learning, governance, inclusion, innovation, and much more to deliver long-term system-level education reforms. And in partnership with the provincial governments, obviously, the UK has directly supported at least 4.5 million children with a quality education. Lots of lessons have been learnt over this last decade, and the expertise and knowledge we have in the room is what is going to be so valuable. Some of the interventions to deal with the immense scale of out-of-school children, such as pioneering private-public partnerships, were quite a bold move at the time, but much more common currency now. And through research, the benefits of both improved access and quality became clear, an approach which has since been replicated in many other countries. We also advocated for girls' education. And today, many in Pakistan and across our global network still talk about the powerful campaigns that called attention to the education emergency through Alif Alan. And we will be hearing more about perhaps Aaj Ki Asika later today. And we supported the provincial governments in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and in Punjab to take a hard line, not too hard I hope, on teacher absenteeism, introducing merit-based recruitment, actions that made a real difference as the government really got out on the front foot on that in the classrooms of millions of children. Some issues, though, which have held Pakistan back and which we've all been wrestling with, remain in play. Some level of civil service reform is still on the agenda to ensure that those with the knowledge, skills and experience remain in position long enough to take the reforms forward. Without this, the inevitable churn of the expert senior bureaucrats, just the same as we see in the UK, holds back progress. And too often in Pakistan, something we'll return to in many countries and over the next 2 days, the wealth of data either doesn't speak to each other across provinces, across districts, or it isn't used to inform policies, budgets, and then programme implementation. There have been notable periods when data were routinely monitored as an accountability mechanism. Many of you here will have worked on the heat maps and the road maps, where we had a really good grip of what was going on in pockets or indeed across provinces relative to education and health. And such routines can be the bedrock of decision-making going forward. Above all, we all know that learning levels are still too low in Pakistan, with 8 out of 10 children unable to read and understand a basic text by the age of 10 or the end of primary education. And this has risen from 7 out of 10 following the pandemic, which of course knocked back so much progress that we had all been striving for. And we know that low levels of learning are one of the fundamental drivers of dropout, because once parents lose confidence in the sacrifices they're making to send their boys and girls to school, they don't carry on when they realise their children can't read or write or make progress to go to the higher grades. So early success on foundational learning, basic literacy, basic numeracy, socio-emotional learning, is really critical to keeping children in school, to keeping parents engaged with their education and enabling them to progress year on year and to thrive in school rather than sit feeling alienated from a curriculum or a pedagogy which is simply not accessible because it's not being taught at the right level. Global research is really clear that an important starting point is getting teachers to teach a curriculum at the right level so that the learner can engage. And encouraging parents, this isn't just because Musharraf Zaidi has just walked in, to ask their children when they come home from school, Aaj kiya seekha, that will involve them still further in their children's education and keep the whole family unit and perhaps the community talking about education and the benefits it brings. But looking ahead, there will be new challenges too. You know this much better than I do. The world we're living in is far more vulnerable to extreme weather events caused by climate change. We saw it in the awful floods, not that they were the first floods last year. These extreme weather events now occur 5 times more frequently than they did 40 years ago. And they are affecting, roughly, again, 40 million children's education every single year globally. And in December last year, we in the UK launched a new paper for us, a position paper, looking at the interplay between girls' education, but by that we mean education for all young people, and climate change, environmental degradation, and the loss of biodiversity. It's a new area that needs an awful lot more work, but we are starting on that journey and we hope you will come with us in order to build more resilient and inclusive education systems and how to strengthen knowledge, skills and agency, influence, awareness for climate action. And the floods last year, of course, simply underscored the links between poverty and climate change and highlighted how Pakistan's girls and boys, children with disabilities, refugees, those living on the edge, marginalised for some reason, are those most at risk. And that is the same in every country where we work. We all know this. Their right to an education is at risk. their safety is at risk, they're much more vulnerable to violence or sexual assault, their health is at risk, and their future is uncertain, if not lost, in terms of their education. And Pakistan will be learning the lessons of previous crises to build an adaptable, resilient education system. And I've already heard some fabulous stories where Pakistan is well out in front on this. The UK, as always, we stand ready to support Pakistan to navigate these critical issues. In addition to our bilateral programs, two of which I will mention, one, data and research for education, really important, thinking back to what I was saying earlier, and a program focused on girls and out-of-school children and how we get them learning. We're also supporting Pakistan through the Global Partnership for Education. Education Cannot Wait, which stepped in so quickly in facing the floods. We're looking at the accelerator plan on foundational learning. And of course, over the next couple of days, we'll be looking in detail at what the What Works Hub is providing. We will continue to work closely with the government of Pakistan. Your country, your system, we're only here to help if that's useful, to support a brighter future for all the children. And I look forward very much indeed to the engaging conference programme, some lively discussions, undoubtedly, as we look back on the story of Pakistan's education reform journey and look forwards to where you think we should all collectively be going.